of the people that are here. I'm surprised the people who are here waiting aren't fussing.
Sometimes they come up 45 minutes.
The people who's supposed to get the proclamation here. I know, that might be her.
I didn't know.
He has it.
That time nothing was open anyway. Yeah, but we have to 2 hours. So then he ended up missing it. I mean, or like Germany. Oh, right. So then rescheduled 4 hours later. Yeah, but I don't have my passport yet. Oh yeah. Change it. I can speak Russian. So I'm waiting for a copy of that in New York. Okay. She went and it was the first time I heard of it. Yeah. So I'm hoping no, I feel like
I was trying to make sure they can hear me when I do the roll call.
Push it away.
It's going to make all that noise.
I wasn't going anywhere. Yeah. I was there for in school. There was no time. I just made it a point to do it when I was doing everything else. I'm glad that I did. So I'm waiting until the lesbian of the church. But hopefully, and they're going to get married out there. I'm going to live in there forever. Okay, he's gone. Okay, he left me.
So I'll be here for the agenda setting meeting on but not the legislating, I believe.
But no, we need whatever.
Actually, Mike doesn't mind doing the agenda setting because there's no, it's an easy meeting. I always said if you need to make a vacation for that day instead of the legislative day. It's like you'll see there's just too much right. You need 2 people.
I know. Because we're high.
Yeah. Yeah. I went right from being a kid to being married with a kid. Yeah. Perhaps it's a good opportunity to think about like you as a human who's not primarily no. I feel like it. No, you'll get there. My mom is on her first girls trip ever in her life, and she's 70, and she's like, and she's like sending us like mass texts. She's up there with her kids, full of her lessons and stuff. It's gonna be crazy. And then I was in a writer with some hospital people. One of them was like 15 from the school, and she's like, mom, and they just like horrible. It's just so like that. They already did their 50th high school reunion, and they've been like hanging out and doing things together ever since. This one was here this week on our website. Because these are all the I'm guessing that's the heavy. Yes. And she like is carrying a jacket, which makes me think she's an origami with the rest of the people that I'm holding. So yeah. And there's a thing. I graduated with 3 hours.
Have you been in the backyard?
Good evening, everyone. The hour 7 p.m. having arrived and passed. Apologies for tardiness. I call to order this legislative meeting for the month of July 2019 for the Woodland Hills School Board. Ms. Hawthorne, will you call the roll?
Mr. Graves?
Present.
Ms. Seligson?
Present.
Mr. Hanchett? Ms. Lawson? Ms. Curry?
Here.
Mr. Hildebrandt?
Here.
Ms. Strasbo?
Here.
Mr. Belmont?
Here.
Ms. Glasser?
Present. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence in memory of Calvin Hall, the police officer who was killed this weekend. He is a Woodland Hills alumnus, and we express our sympathy to his family. Thank you. The board met in executive session this evening, immediately before this meeting, to discuss legal, personnel, and school security matters. Can I have a motion to accept the minutes for the agenda and legislative meetings from June?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbaugh, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any corrections or addenda to the minutes? I will note that we appear to have on the board docs, we appear to have the both tabs are for the agenda setting meeting minutes. So we will need to. We can accept the agenda minutes, but not having the opportunity to review the legislative meeting minutes. I believe we ought to table that.
That sounds proper.
Okay. Ms. Strasbaugh, Dr. Hildebrand, can we amend the motion to be for the agenda meeting only?
Yes.
Certainly.
Okay. So we will take a vote to accept the minutes from the agenda setting meeting in June on June 12th. Motion carries unanimously. Is there a motion to table the legislative meeting minutes?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Graves, second by Ms. Seligson. We do a voice vote on that, please.
Yes, Mr. Grace. Mr. Grace?
Yes.
Ms. Seligson?
Yes.
Miss Curry?
Yes.
Do I still have to say their names? Dr. Hildebrand?
Yes.
Ms. Strasbow?
Yes.
Mr. Belmont?
Yes.
Ms. Glasser?
Yes. We'll review the minutes again for next month. Okay. Mr. Harris, are there any announcements?
Just one this evening. Just want to let everyone know that we're still having student registration. It's going on in all buildings and in this admin building. And if you would like to make an appointment for registration, just call 412-731-1300, extension 0110. That's, once again, it's 412-731-1300, extension 0110 for student registration appointments. Thank you.
Does anyone else have announcements? Okay. I will note that we have the second annual Hugs and Unity Baptist uniform giveaway, which will be this coming Saturday, July 20th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. At the Unity Baptist Church on 4th Street in Braddock. And also, I think it'll stretch into the community space adjacent as well. So please come out for that event. It is a good time, or it was last year for sure. So I hope everyone will be there for that. Anyone else? Announcements? Okay. We do not have student speakers over the summer, and I don't believe there are any presentations this evening unless you want to talk about the climate change.
Right there.
Okay.
I'm going to read the whole thing.
Go for it. Yep.
From here?
Sure.
Okay. We have a call to climate change action proclamation calling all Congress and state legislators to act on climate to protect students. Whereas we believe America is a great nation and has a proud heritage of addressing humanity's most pressing problems, whereas we believe it is important to advocate for climate action leading to climate restoration to curtail one of the greatest threats facing communities throughout the world, and whereas we believe that climate change is not a partisan issue and that local, state, and national policies be guided by the best available science, and whereas the majority of climate scientists agree that human activities contributing to increases in greenhouse gas emissions are the dominant cause of climate change, and whereas children represent a particularly vulnerable group because greenhouse gases emitted into the atmosphere will continue to accumulate over the coming decades and will profoundly impact our current students throughout their lives, as well as the lives of future generations, and whereas the Woodland Hills School Board recognizes climate change as a generational justice and human rights issue, and whereas climate change is a social justice and equity issue, while climate change impacts all people and disproportionately impacts all young people and future generations, it disproportionately affects people of color and people in poverty, thereby exacerbating existing inequities and limiting equality of opportunity, which is a foundational aspiration for modern America. Whereas the global impact, urgency, and magnitude of the challenge of addressing climate change calls for leadership in all sectors of society, all institutions, and all elected leaders. And whereas national and state elected leaders working in a bipartisan fashion to enact carbon pricing policies could quickly reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and whereas the Woodland Hills School Board recognizes and understands the significant negative impact that rapid and ongoing climate change has on America's schools, students, and their communities. Let it therefore be resolved that the Woodland Hills School Board shall direct the superintendent to establish a climate change committee to develop recommendations for taking action on climate change that are within the purview of the district, such as 1. Curricular and educational opportunities such as climate literacy and climate advocacy. 2. Facilities and operational priorities and projects including transportation, purchasing, maintenance, landscaping, and construction. 3. Climate-friendly food service, including initiatives to increase food waste reduction programs. And 4. Engagement in nonpartisan advocacy with local, state, and federal jurisdictions for common-sense climate policies that protect current and future students. The committee shall be open to participation by board members, administration, staff, parents, students, and community members, and shall provide quarterly reports of its activities to the board.
Okay. Thank you very much. We'll consider that later in the agenda. Any questions at this point on the resolution? Okay. That'll move us to registered speakers. Ms. Hawthorne, I don't see that we have any registered speakers this evening. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So that will move us into board matters.
Okay, Board Matters 2.1, second reading of revised policy 201, admission of beginners.
Excuse me. As this is a second reading, we will consider it next month. Any questions at this time? Okay, seeing none. 2.2.
2.2, second reading of policy 203, immunizations and communicable diseases.
Again, this is a second reading. The vote will be next month. Any questions on this one? Okay, seeing none. 2.3.
2.3, third and final reading of policy 150, Title I comparability.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbach, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions or discussion on the change? Or the addition of this policy? Okay, seeing none, take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 2.4.
2.4, third and final reading of policy 609, investment of district funds.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbach, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, we'll take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 2.5.
2.5, third and final reading of policy 823, naloxone.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Ms. Strasbach. Any questions or discussion of the naloxone policy? Seeing none, we'll take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 2.6.
2.6, third and final reading of policy 918, Title I, parent and family engagement.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbach, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 2.7.
2.7, we seek approval to accept the Teaching Tolerance Educator Grant.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Ms. Strasbach. Any questions on the grant?
A comment, please. I'd like to thank Lisa Silverman for getting this grant for us. She's a teacher at high school.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. We'll take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 2.8.
2.8, we seek approval to accept the funds from the University of Michigan's Monitoring the Future program.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Belmont, second by Ms. Strasbach. Any questions or discussion?
I have a comment.
Sure.
I was anxious to make that motion. My father's a 1950 graduate of the University of Michigan.
I was curious how the University of Michigan found and chose us.
It was my dad. No, I'm kidding.
Listen, I got a brother that just graduated in 1980. You talk about.
How did this come to us? Do we know?
Right?
I guess Steve has something to do with it, Dave.
Not aware of it.
Who's going to administer this?
Well, there you go.
Is this something that the tab seems to indicate that we've been involved in this already? It says we'd be invited to. We could be
For next
invited to
next year.
participate next year. Is that what that is
Yeah.
meant to say? Okay. Okay. Mr. Harris, do you know who's going to work through this?
To Ms. McGregor. No, I can get the information to the board.
We could table it.
Are you comfortable with us approving this before we have that information? Should we table it until next month?
Kind of like to know who in our district would be
Yeah.
overseeing it. Yeah.
I think that's important information.
Let's table it.
Okay. Is there a motion to table?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbaugh, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Can we have a voice vote on the table? Motion to table?
And this is motion to table. Ms. Seligson?
Yes.
Ms. Curry?
Yes.
Do I have to say it? Dr. Hildebrand?
Yes.
Ms. Strasbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Belmont?
With apologies to Dave's brother, Steve, and my father.
Ms. Glasser?
You skip Mr. Graves.
Oh, Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Ms. Glasser left?
Yes.
Yes, sorry.
Okay, that'll move us to Section 3, Assistant Superintendent 3.1.
3.1, permission to untable action item 3.2 from the June 19, 2019 legislative meeting that states, we seek approval to accept the school improvement plan for the Woodland Hills Junior Senior High School.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbach, second by Dr. Hildebrand.
You can do this as a voice vote. Also, I guess for future, instead of saying untable, it's take from the table. So, just as an editorial note in the future.
Nice.
Okay. We will note that. Prefer it as a voice vote, or we can do it on the...
You can do it as a voice vote, yes.
Okay.
Voice vote? For 3.1.
Okay. What's this called? Yours first and second. Desktop, Mr. Andrews.
Yeah, it's all in favor. Yeah, you can say all in favor. I mean, when we're doing this, is it just easier to use the system? I mean, that's...
It is easier to use the system, but I mean, if we all do one, I mean, if you just do it.
Okay, if we're just doing it, if we're not doing a roll call, we can do a voice vote and just... Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. That moves us to 3.2.
3.2, we seek approval to accept the school improvement plan for the Woodland Hills Junior Senior High School.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbach, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, we'll take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 3.3.
3.3, permission to untable action item 3.3 from the June 19, 2019 legislative meeting that states, we seek approval to accept a school improvement plan for Wilkins Primary.
Is there a motion?
To move.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Seligson, second by Dr. Hildebrand. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, seeing none, that moves us to 3.4.
3.4, we seek approval to accept the school improvement plan for Wilkins Primary.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbaugh, second by Ms. Seligson. Any questions or discussion? Okay, seeing none, take the vote.
She's looking over here.
I didn't get a box.
Oh, you didn't?
Motion carries unanimously. Maybe I did. I guess I did. It just took a while. Sorry, gang. Motion carries unanimously. 3.5.
3.5, permission to untable action 3.4 from the June 19, 2019 legislative meeting regarding the building principals and assistant principal staffing plan for the 2019-2020 school year.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Seligson, second by Dr. Hildebrand. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, 3.6.
3.6, we seek permission to adopt the assistant superintendent's building principals and assistant principal staffing plan for the 2019-2020 school year.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Ms. Seligson, second by Ms. Strasbach. Any questions or discussion? Okay, seeing none, take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 3.7.
3.7, we seek approval of the one-year agreement with PAETEP EduLink in the amount of $10,181.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Ms. Strasbach. Any questions or discussion?
Yeah, can we get some specifics on what this is?
I don't remember this.
You do or don't?
I don't.
EduLink and PAETEP is a resource that the building administration uses to help them with the format for evaluating the teachers and for the student learning objectives. We have had an agreement with them for the past 3 years, every 3 years. So the agreement has changed to 1 year because when I went through and checked the usage rate over the past 3 years, the usage rate was not there. However, when the principals did ask to keep it, because there's 2 principals who really used it and the others haven't. So instead of doing a full 3 year, we decided that we would keep it, but I would keep monitoring the usage rate because to make sure that it's been used.
So if it's not being used, it's something we want to extend the contract on in the future?
No, because there are other ways that we should look into getting the forms and what they need if the usage rate is not there. There could be other alternatives in the future.
Do you think there's something better?
I don't think there's necessarily something better, but some of the common forms we can find at the places except the student learning objectives. We would need that to use it for that. However, I am having the PAETEP staff to come in and give refreshers on using the system, etc., to the principals in August, just to.
Now, is this something which the principals didn't use because of it was difficult to use, or is it they just were why wasn't it being used?
Well, I don't necessarily know all of the answers, but I know that when I checked the usage rate and we thought of discontinuing, they really gave a good case as to why they needed to keep it, and I did make it clear to them that 2 out of 5 can't. It has to be unanimously used consistently. Mm-hmm. But I didn't want to take something away and not have something substantial to replace it, and also without taking the next year to work together on finding a common document. So, after having discussion and taking it to Mr. Harris, etc., and we just said we'll keep it for another year. We'll continue to watch the usage rate, and if it's been used, then we'll consider keeping. But since we can do it on a year-to-year basis, we decided to do that for 1 more year.
So keeping this for a year is sort of a compromise position as opposed to renewing for a full 3-year term.
Correct.
This will allow us to see whether this is the vehicle we can use or to explore other options.
Yes,
going
and
forward.
to monitor the usage. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll take the vote. Motion is approved 6-1. That moves us to 3.8.
3.8, we seek approval. We seek the approval for agreement between Woodland Hills School District and Lakeside Educational Network to provide PD on brain basics and intro to trauma and trauma-informed classroom.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Ms. Curry. Any questions on this?
Yeah, is this for all teachers, paraprofessionals, who's all involved in the professional development day?
So with us putting the resource rooms in place next year within the schools, we needed to be able to work with the RTI specialists, social workers, and those who would be involved with working with the students within those resource rooms. So starting now, we will have the RTI specialists, yes, a certain amount of teachers trained on this, but the basis behind this is to make sure that we have a program, a curriculum, research base that can be used within these resource rooms when the students by the RTI specialist, and also to be able to give the teachers strategies on how to work with our students. That would also help our pre-referral system and showing that we are using a research base and we're using strategies with our students and in lieu of and changing behaviors as far as non-egregious behaviors that does not warrant out-of-school suspension. So it's about changing the behaviors, working with them about the brain-based learning, the effect of trauma on students, and to combat behaviors and be able to role play and change those behaviors within that resource room once they're assigned there. But yes, eventually we're hoping to have all of the teachers trained eventually, but right now we'll be working with the RTI specialists who will be working in the room, manning those resource rooms and giving strategies to the students.
So this is a measure to strengthen our supports for students in that particular area.
Exactly.
Right, but it's only a handful of faculty and staff at the moment, right?
Well, at the moment, and with our agreement, we can train a lot more staff.
Well, that's what I didn't see.
But right now we're focusing on the K-5 schools.
Okay. Yes.
How is this different from the trauma-informed PD or PD around trauma and trauma-informed care?
So, and Ms. Golden, so are you speaking of the which training?
Mindfulness
I feel
training.
like trauma-informed PD was just
Care.
like that we talked a lot about it last year. And
So I do think that I'm going to have to rely on Ms. Golden, because that was in her area last year, to help us to help me answer this question about what was done and what you're referring to exactly.
Thank you.
I think that the difference is that this one, the trauma-informed training that we've received has been for all the teachers, and just on recognizing what trauma is, what it looks like for our students, kind of like that foundational type of training, whereas this is focusing on how to work with those behaviors, more giving strategies, whereas the other one was more just a kind of a focus on educating about trauma, if that makes sense, and what that looks like for kids. But this is taking it to that next step and working with how do we work with those students, how do our teachers work with those students who experience certain types of behavior. So they're going to be working with strategies and looking at how to change student behavior.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a statement.
Sorry.
Sometimes when we do stuff like this, I think maybe we should use it as a presentation. That way everybody understands some of the programming that we're using to better support our students and give an idea of what it is. Because sometimes just by the name itself, we might not really understand how significant or significant it is compared to what's going on.
We have them, we have the folks from Lakeside scheduled to do just that in a committee meeting. But we felt like we needed to add
us for this first because we're writing what those resource rooms would look like, the programming that's going in there.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Seeing none, take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to Section 4, Curriculum 4.1.
4.1, we seek approval of the Woodland Hills School District Pre-K Counts Child Care Collaboration Agreement.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strassbach, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to Section 5, Special Education 5.1.
5.1, we seek approval for the Master Teacher Contract for Professional Development for the 2019-2020 school year at a cost of $1,665.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Ms. Strassbach. Any questions or discussion?
Yeah, so we approved this every year, right? Or something similar to this?
I believe,
Sort of.
I believe that we do. I'll let
Yes,
Dr.
yes.
Bennett.
This is the district, the training that the district has been using, that the paras, they have the ability to participate in building level training, district-wide training, and group training. So it's provided in-house through the personnel and outside, and through an outside vendor. But this is training that they're needed. That's needed and you have been using here in the district for years as far as keeping them abreast to the requirements for them being paraprofessional.
So do you have an idea of how many people are using it every year?
Well, I believe that all of the paras use it every year because they have to take certain courses and certain amount of...
I just wanted to make sure that...
Uh-huh.
Any other questions? Okay. Seeing none, take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 5.2.
5.2, we seek approval to contract with Wesley Family Services for 3 therapeutic classrooms for the 2019-2020 school year at a service cost amount of $284,370 from General Fund 10.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Ms. Strassbach. Any questions on this?
I have a comment. I just really appreciated the discussion that we all had about this during committee, and I'm really happy that this recommendation was changed.
Me too.
Me too.
I concur. Any other questions? Okay. Seeing none, we'll take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 5.3.
5.3, we seek approval for the purchase of Ames Web Plus at a cost of $6,800 from General Fund 10.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strassbach, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions or discussion?
Can we refresh what this is? I don't remember.
Ames Web Plus is the progress monitoring tool that we need to use for our students with special needs, for the teachers to progress monitor them consistently, and it's geared towards students with disabilities, and we have to have that per that was part of our agreement as far as the restructuring of the special ed department and what part of the agreement that was made with PDE that we needed to have included. We need a solid progress monitoring tool for our students with special needs.
Right, but wasn't there a tool in, was it the IEP writer? And was that the issue that that's not?
It's not
Easy
in
to
depth
use.
enough. That is not easy to use, but Ames Web digs a little bit deeper, and it satisfies all of the disability. Whereas there's certain skills that are in that we can tap into every disability area.
We had some pretty extensive discussion about the selection of this particular software, did we not? Okay.
Yes, and it's also, the software is more compatible with what we're using now district-wide. Too. IEP Writer was not, Power School is not as compatible with Power School, but I know that Ames Web is.
But then we'll be phasing out those other two if this ends up being better.
I believe that they're already phased out. IEP Writer, well, that will be phased out, yeah, because, and then this meshes more with Power School.
Any other questions? Seeing none, take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to Section 6, People Personnel, 6.1.
6.1, permission to untable action item 7.1 from the May 15, 2019 legislative meeting that states we seek approval to accept the memorandum of understanding between the Woodland Hills School District and members of the Woodland Hills School District Provider Council pending solicitor review.
Is there a motion?
Moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbach, second by Ms. Seligson. Any questions? Oh, sorry. Is there all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, that moves us to 6.2.
6.2, we seek approval to accept the memorandum of understanding between the Woodland Hills School District and members of the Woodland Hills School District Provider Council.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbach, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions or discussion on the MOU?
If I could just say, make one clarification. It's the MOU between the district and the Greater Pittsburgh Food Bank as a member of the Woodland Hills Provider Council.
Okay.
So if that amendment could be made, then...
Is that amenable as a friendly amendment?
Yes.
Okay. So we will amend the tab as such. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Seeing none, we'll take the vote. To vote on the tab as amended. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to Section 7, Personnel, 7.1.
7.1, approval of the PA Educator Contract of Services for the period of July 1, 2019 through June 30, 2020 at the board meeting on July 17, 2019.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbach, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions or discussion? Okay. Seeing none, take the vote.
School district. Yeah. After that, and the Greater Pittsburgh Food Bank.
Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 6.2.
7.2,
Sorry,
section...
7.2.
okay.
Apologies.
It's okay. 7.2, Section B, authorization for retirement/resignation. Section G, authorization for miscellaneous.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbach, second by Ms. Curry. Any discussion of this would require executive session. Is there any need to go into executive?
What's that?
Okay. Seeing none, we'll take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to Section 8, Technology, 8.1.
8.1, we seek approval to lease 690 Chromebook laptops with HP Financial Services at an annual cost of $46,913.47.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Ms. Curry. Any questions or discussion? Okay. Seeing none, I'll take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to Section 11, 11.1.
11.1, we seek approval of PCEO number 22R from Nello Construction totaling $95,000 for unsuitable soils at Dixon School from Capital Project Fund 39.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbach, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions or discussion on this?
Was this, refresh my memory, because the soil we had at Dixon was basically clay. We had Sand.
Sandy, unsuitable. On top of that, it was wet and unsuitable to be put back into place that they could, tamper it down and it'll stay where, because it was just not acceptable. It wouldn't have held the structure, so they had to bring in stone. And the majority of it was inside the building, where the floors and stuff would be.
Speaking of climate change,
Is this part of the wall?
it's rain.
No, that's a different issue. This was the soils itself when they got down to the foundation. It was very sandy, very loose soil, not compactable. Okay, it just wouldn't compact, so they had to dig it out and bring in stone in its place rather than other soil. They brought in stone and it compacted.
Am I correct that this is the resolution of the matter that we thought was going to be much more costly?
This is one of the resolutions, yes.
Okay.
One of the other matters that
This is, we had some lengthy conversations about
very
this.
lengthy. Yeah, this was brought down from, if you look at the detail, it was brought down with other through negotiation and other items.
Okay.
The original cost was what, 300,000? Something like that.
Yeah, it was
that's-
up there. I just don't remember the original cost now.
Any other questions? Okay. Seeing none, we'll take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 11.2.
11.2, we seek approval of the attached CCDs related to the reconfiguration of the Dixon School project from Capital Fund 39.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbach, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions or discussion on this? Okay. Seeing none, we'll take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 11.3.
11.3, we seek approval of PCO number 25 from Nello Construction totaling $94,051.90 for the additional lockers and insulation at Dixon School from Capital Project Fund 39.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbach, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions or discussion? Okay. Seeing none, we'll take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 11.4.
11.4, we seek approval to award the district moving services bid to Don Farr Moving Company at a low bid of $12,225 from the General Fund 10.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbach, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions or discussion on the moving costs? Seeing none, we'll take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 11.5.
11.5, we seek approval of outside organizations to utilize district facilities.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Ms. Strasbach. Any questions?
Yeah, this tab is really hard to read on the side.
That's her.
Why is it doing this?
No.
This one?
There you go.
Nah, we're good now.
Okay.
That was like upside down. Thank you.
Any other questions? I have a question, Mr. Finney, related to the use. I see that the Woodland Hills Aquatic Team is requesting use of the intermediate pool. Is that going to change to the high school pool once it is again available to us, or is that?
Eventually, we will switch it over.
Okay.
Yes.
So, okay. Will we see new requests at that time, or are we going to just be able to move them without?
We'll be able to move them.
Okay. All right. Does anyone else have questions?
East Catholic School, that's a lot of dates. I thought we weren't doing that anymore. From now August till next May.
But there's specific dates, right? I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just specific dates for the next 2 years. I mean, if you don't want that done, I mean, I could let them know that we could do it on a yearly for that year, 2019.
I don't really care, but I just remember us having a lot of discussion about not blocking out so much time so far in advance.
That was blocking out every gym, like every day of the week.
Right.
Okay.
That's my recollection as well. There was
no specific dates. They were saying, okay, we want it from June every day from June 1st to
The end of the year.
to May 30th or whatever, right?
Okay. Just a lot of numbers there.
Also, I'd like to add something with East Catholic. They won't have a list of students for at least 2 more weeks, so the custodial fee might change to that once I get that list of students.
once we have the list of students determine whether they're in district or out of district.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. So we can approve that contingent.
No charge.
Right.
Use of facilities,
Right.
not the custodial. The custodial will still be there.
So right.
The fee for.
I understand.
Yeah. Okay.
So we can approve this if the board is amenable. We can approve this contingent on verification of the list of students. Is that amenable to you guys? Okay. So that we will take that as a friendly amendment and vote on the tab as amended. Is there any other discussion or questions?
Yeah, I do have a question about, and this goes for the use of any outside facility, right? So when you say custodial fees, it's applicable. So what custodial fees are applicable at, say, the Wilkins soccer field, the Dixon field, or the field at the intermediate school? And how do you hold a group accountable if there's a bunch of trash up at that field, but it's open to the public? And I know tons of people bring their water bottles up there and just leave them laying around. They have absolutely nothing to do with the organization that actually used the field. Right, so I'm just curious how
we try to monitor it the best as we can. Prior to that, a lot of it has to do while we're out doing grounds, when we're cutting grass and weed whacking. That stuff should be picked up. That the public or whoever's throwing the trash out prior to the event being used. Okay. Just like right now at the softball and the baseball field. We have coaches that have keys to our gates. They go in there with their kids, and they leave cups and bottles on the field. So my guys got to go out and clean it up before we have an event, which starts tomorrow. So we did that, so we can't charge them for that.
Okay, no, I'm just curious how you monitor, how you charge an organization when something is basically free and open to anybody from the public to use.
We try to monitor it the best we can.
Okay, that's about as good as answer as you can get, right? So I was just wondering how you figure that out.
Any other questions? Okay. Seeing none, we'll take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 11.6.
11.6, we seek ratification to authorize AGX Environmental Consultants to complete air samples at the high school renovation to come out of Capital Project Fund 39.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strassbach, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions?
Yeah, is this just sort of general ongoing sampling, or is it like at the end of the project?
We started this back in April and May, which the job is complete. That part is already completed.
Okay, that's right. Okay, that explains then why the dates have already passed. Okay, so
Like
this is
mold testing or just general, like he asked, general
It's
quality?
asbestos.
Oh, good. Okay.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 11.7.
11.7, we seek approval to award Keystone Electrical Systems, Inc. to install new electrical shutoff devices and wiring to the Ansel system at the intermediate school's kitchen. Total cost $11,702 from Funds 10.
Is there a motion?
so moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Ms. Strassbach. Any questions? I have a clarification question. This is at the current intermediate school, not Dixon?
This is at the current intermediate school, correct?
There are safety issues with the current equipment there that need to be remedied
Correct.
before the school year starts?
For the hoods, yes.
Okay.
We had to install an Ansel tank remote pull station, which APCO did. We did that a couple months ago, but APCO does not have an electrician to hook it up to our fire system, so that's what we have to do to be compliant.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Seeing none, take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. Moves us to 11.8.
11.8, we seek approval to award Bethlehem Wire and Fence to install 180 lineal feet of fence at 6 feet high with 3 gates. Total cost $7,436 from the general fund.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strassbach, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions or discussion? Okay, seeing none, take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 11.9.
11.9, we seek approval to increase the budget for testing and quality assurance to $150,000 for Civil Environmental Consultants, Inc. for Dixon School from Capital Project 39.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strassbach, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions or discussion?
Yeah, I want to know the difference between the underestimated cost and the actual, because the board tab is for like almost 3 times of what it is, and if we're underestimated.
That was from the budget information we received when we did the project from Reynolds. They gave us the number that basically provided me with a number that said, Mike, this would be what the testing would be, 48.5, generated a purchase order, and then lo and behold, last 3 weeks ago, I didn't get an invoice for another $26,000, and that's only through March. So they still get another invoice from March till now. And I called them the other day. I said, "What are you doing to me? What is this?" I said, "You just blew the budget." I said, and they said, "Yeah, we blew the budget."
So the costs are related.
They just gave us a bad number. We have other things that are going on because of north wall damage, additional testing because of the soils, but it was a bad budget number to begin with.
It was a bad number to begin with. So
it was too low.
Okay.
They totally underestimated that.
So
testing.
what is the additional cost?
So does it come from contingency? Where is it coming from?
Yeah, we're going to have to identify. I have to go through and I have to identify, because these come out of soft costs.
Right. Okay.
And it may even, the hope is that we even have some funds left over from the purchase of furniture, which is all under that. But there's some things, surveying and stuff, that I have to add up and see what was actually spent and see what fits.
We only have like $200,000 left in our contingency, right?
This doesn't. This is out of soft cost. Contingency is for construction costs.
Okay.
And if it gets down to it, then we will have to. I don't know. It's very upsetting, and I'm with you, Mr. Graves.
Okay. So we'll need to have a conversation about that.
We should continue it with them. Yes.
Do we have to vote on this right now?
We need to get the vendor paid. I mean, he is performing the work. They are still doing the testing for the soils, the concrete. I mean, they are doing it. It's not that it wasn't called for. It's just that they gave us a bad number on the budget for the whole project.
Will the project be delayed if we don't vote on this tonight?
The project won't be delayed, but they may not continue to do work, which will then cause a delay.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
So if we don't vote on this tonight and the testing is delayed, that will delay the project.
Yes.
Okay. So then I don't think we can wait
No.
to vote on it. Okay.
Aren't they supposed to be here when we have questions like this?
I don't think we asked them to be at every legislative meeting. We can do that going forward.
We did.
I don't
I
think.
thought that
Yeah, I thought
he said he was going to attend all of the meetings. Yeah.
My recollection of that was facilities meetings, not legislative meetings.
Oh.
So we can ask for that going forward, for sure.
They have been showing up whenever there's items.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, no, but
Okay. Oh, we still.
I would still do that.
Okay. All right. So we're going to inquire with council about this as well, and see if there's any other action that we can take with council as well. So. Okay. Any other questions? Discussion? Okay. Can we also clarify the contingency number? My recollection is that we're still closer to $400,000 in contingency at this point.
I'll verify it.
Yeah, we can get that verified as well. That would be good. But I think because Duquesne Light was less than we anticipated, that we're still like $400,000 in contingency, as I recall. So.
I thought less, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, we'll check it out. But that's good to clarify. Does anybody else have questions? Okay. Seeing none, let's take the vote. Motion carries 6-1. That moves us to Section 14, School Finance.
14.1, we seek ratification of the bill list for invoices paid after the June 19, 2019 legislative meeting.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbach, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions on the ratification list?
Yeah.
Okay.
On page 6, there's something down there for a $36,000 desk. What is that?
Page 6.
Page 6, towards the bottom, it says Lancaster, Lebanon.
Oh, that's the, I think that's the Windows platform that we purchased.
We should probably get Steve in
Yeah,
here.
Steve.
That's tech,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
that's not a desk. That's the
Software.
the operating system.
Oh.
That was one of the
Yeah, that's the.
items that was
I think that's a
a
district.
separate item that we approved last month. It got
Does Lancaster Lebanon act like a clearinghouse in this? Like,
Yeah, Steve, can you speak to the
Lancaster Lebanon Enterprise Desktop Platform.
Yes, we just renewed our campus agreement for Microsoft, and it is a 5-year agreement, and the prices are guaranteed not to change within the next 5 years. And this is our first payment. So every July, we're going to be making an annual payment to Lancaster Lebanon.
Okay.
And they're the ones that negotiated the volume pricing for the whole entire state.
Okay. So we're buying into a consortium, essentially?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
This gives us the latest versions of
This will give
Windows,
us all the latest
Office,
versions, correct.
Excel.
Do families still have the option of using those licenses on
Yes.
their
Yes. All
5
students
licenses?
can download up to 5
Great.
installations of Office.
Let's make sure everybody's aware of that, please.
Yes.
As we're going forward, because that's a really nice benefit to our families.
Make sure of it.
Thank you. Any other questions before Steve goes away? Okay.
No,
Any other questions on
it's
the
just we're buying furniture and everything. I just wanted to make sure there's no $36,000 desktop out there. What is this?
That's right. That's right. All right. Does anyone else have questions on the ratification list? Okay. Seeing none, I hear Sade. We'll take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 14.2.
14.2, we seek approval of the July 2019 bill list.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbach, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions or discussion on the bill list? Seeing none, take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 14.3.
14.3, we seek the acceptance of the June 2019 fund financial reports and student activity reports for informational purposes.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbach, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, we'll take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 14.4.
14.4, we seek approval of the investment reports for June 2019.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbach, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions or discussion?
Just probably a silly question, but I want to ask anyway. For our investments, since we don't have any money, could we technically cash all this stuff in and that to have some money?
Well, this is our money earning interest.
Right.
I'm not going to cash it in and just let it sit in a lower interest account or no interest account. I'm investing our funds so we...
I understand it's an investment, but I'm saying if we don't have any money at all, that's still an option to always go back and use.
Yeah, I can always pull these anytime I want.
Yeah, they're relatively liquid, so he can pull
They're actually invested, strung out with our cash flow, so they're strategically placed when we have low ebbs and we'll need the cash. So, but they're still liquid enough that I can call them if needed.
Any other questions? Okay. Seeing none, take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 14.5.
14.5, we seek to ratify the opening of 2 new bank accounts with PLGIT to accommodate the GOB series of 2019 bond proceeds and a 2019 capitalized debt account.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbach, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, we'll take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That was us to 14.6.
14.6, we seek approval of the 2019-2020 interscholastic athletic accident insurance, $9,550, and K-12 voluntary student accident insurance through Denon and Parkins Associates, Inc.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbach, second by Ms. Curry. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, take the vote. Motion carries unanimously, and that moves us to section 15, superintendent.
15.1, permission to untable action item 14.3 from the June 19, 2019 legislative meeting that states we seek approval of the MOU with WHEA for the Woodland Hills School District Early Retirement Incentive.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbach, second by Dr. Hildebrand. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That moves us to 15.2.
15.2, we seek approval of the MOU with the WHEA for the Woodland Hills School District Early Retirement Incentive.
And this is how it appears. It's been changed since last month, but it is what it appears on your board docs.
Okay. Very good, thank you. Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbach, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, we'll take the vote. Motion carries. Oops, sorry. I shouldn't say that yet. I don't know.
I certainly had to vote.
Fingers crossed. Motion carries unanimously. Okay. That moves us to 15.3.
15.3, we seek approval of Resolution 540.19, Call to Climate Change Action, as read.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Ms. Curry, second by Ms. Seligson. Any questions or discussion on this?
I'd like to make a comment.
Yes.
I'd like to state that I'm really pleased that we're doing this. Climate change is here. It's real. It's happening. The soil problem we're having at Dixon right now with all the rain we've had, the rainfalls we've had have been record-setting for the last 2 years, not just here but everywhere. And if you ever have time, United Nations Intergovernmental Panel Report on Climate Change that was published last November. Scientists from 19 different countries around the world got together and said that something has to be done about CO2 emissions to reduce the rate of increase 50% in the next 10 years and then reduce it altogether by 2050 to reduce the rate of temperature increase to 1 degree Celsius. So you do all that, we're still going to have global warming. So we have to take this seriously and get our kids to understand that for the sake of our kids' future. Thank you.
Anyone else have questions or comments? Seeing none, take a vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves to 15.4.
15.4, the board, upon recommendation of the superintendent, authorizes the administration to issue a statement of charges to commence the procedure to terminate a professional employee per the attached letter.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbach, second by Dr. Hildebrand. I believe discussion of this will require executive session.
Yes.
Is there a need to go into executive? Seeing none, we'll take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. So that concludes the agenda, I believe. Is there any old business?
I have have an item?
Mike?
We had a presentation by Yonder Pouch in June concerning cell phones in our high school. A quick recap of all that was 2 meetings at the high school with administrators and teachers and students. And the long and short of that is we have a problem with cell phones in our high school. And we had resolved to do something, and if we don't continue discussion tonight, then we're going to go into next school year with what we've always had. And I'd like to submit that any policy that we have is difficult to enforce. The phones are a distraction to learning. They are a source of conflict between students and teachers. I'd like to get everybody's input tonight as to what we'd like to see done so we can give our administration, our teachers support in the direction I feel we need to go. We need to come up with something, and I think this is a relatively new phenomenon. Phones have been on the market now for about 10 years, the smartphones, and everybody's still trying to learn how to adjust to it. I'm all for technology. I'm not saying that we don't take the phones away. I'm not saying that phones are bad. What I'm saying is there's a place for them. And I think families, along with us, are trying to figure out the appropriate time use of these devices. So I'd like to hear everybody's input on this, have a nice discussion on this, and see where we could go.
I'll jump in. I agree with what you're saying as far as families trying to figure out a balance between technology and phone usage and computer usage. However, I think from a district standpoint, we're just not in a financial position to pay for something or even lease a product like that right now. And I do recall Dr. Woods in particular saying it's a bit too soon to fully jump into something like that without really talking to everybody. I do think we could possibly develop or reinforce our current policy. I know some teachers have done things like, because they use them in class, like with math and maybe sciences, maybe certain times of the period they can use them and maybe have a certain area where they can put them, for the rest of the time. I just think there's a more cost-effective way to handle this versus, making such a big commitment and purchase to, the Yonder pouches. Great presentation, but and me personally, having a middle schooler, I feel comfortable better with knowing she has her phone for emergencies. So, just my personal opinion.
Anyone else?
I'll add, when Dr. Woods was up here and he made that comment about the student who just would not give up his phone, that's the extreme example. The other kids are somewhere in between. There's something with these devices that some researchers call it the maybe factor. They have to see the phone to see what might be there. And as I stated a minute ago, as long as these devices are in our buildings, will be a distraction to learning. Our goal here is to get test scores up to win families back. And our competition has policies on the books. Kid gets caught with the phone, it's given back to him at the end of the day. The next time the family gets called in. And other people are doing it. The state of California has banned cell phones in their high schools starting this coming school year. I'd like to think we have the time to figure something out. I really think the time is now. I can't overstate when we met with the folks this past spring. There's a cry for help here. Everybody throws up their hands. What do we do? What do we do? And I'm suggesting this is what we do. Leave the phones on the student, and then at the end of the day, the students are allowed to have the phones back. And I think families would probably thank us because when the kids are getting picked up from school lots of times, the parents are on their phones not giving their kids the attention that those kids want. And I'm here to tell you the kids grow up quickly And those parents will look back and wish that they hadn't done that, that when they were with their kids, they were fully engaged. And my hope is that we get engagement back between students and teachers where these distractions aren't in the way of building relationships. And they are. They are in the way of building relationships.
Yeah, but we have to build a trust factor back first before we expect families to take such a huge leap. So we're not there yet.
I get there. Well, that's where I would say that I think we are. I think we've made changes. We're in the process of continuing to make change. And at some point, we're elected officials, and we have to accept the fact that we're the leaders here and say this is what we think is best for our students and our teachers, and this is what we're going to do. I think the trust is coming back, and I think by doing something like this, it could even bring it back more.
What was your feedback if we didn't go with the Yonder pouch? What was some of the suggestions the staff was making, if any?
Well, they, to back up real quick on a point you brought up, the idea of having teachers kind of implement what they want to do in a classroom kind of on their own. The consensus was the kids were getting mixed signals. They go into Chardae's class, wow, she lets me use the phone all the time. They go to Mike's class and they say, wow, you don't let us use it at all. And then it's everything in between. The other suggestions, there was research done on some boxes where you can put the phones in the boxes when you come into the building, but that was expensive. Another option was collecting phones in baskets and then having each homeroom teacher responsible for those, or the front office. And the concern was phones being lost, who pays for them? So that's how we came around to the Yonder pouch idea that the phone stays on the child, secured. It can be unlocked at any time in an emergency. In the classroom, the teachers have the unlocking device. Beyond that, there had not been any other options that have been brought up that I can recall. I think if we did this, if we're making improvements at the high school, it could be the single biggest decision to help to continue to improve the environment in that building.
Is there anyone else who wishes to comment on this at the moment?
I mean, I have a comment. I'm very conflicted about the use of cell phones in a building. I see both ways. I see both things being a positive. I wonder about enforcement. We have to have, we still don't have consistent enforcement about dress code and some of the other more pressing things that we're trying to get students to fall in line, and to take something as important as a cell phone. For some of our students, that's the only communication they have with their parents. And until we get into a situation where our students know, without a doubt, that when they come to school, they will be safe, then I think it's hard for me to vote to take a cell phone away. And our teachers can help us with that aspect of it. And unfortunately, we're not there yet. But if this is something they want to talk about, I'm always willing to talk to them about it. But I think, too, most of us, when we were in school, well, actually, most of us when we were in high school, there wasn't even cell phones there. And
Razor.
I'm sorry, you're light. You're like younger than I am. But I think the point is that we can't always think about like how we were raised by our parents or how we were raised. We have to raise our kids with this future, with the fact that cell phones are present in every aspect. There was a time when no one had a computer in their home. Now everybody has some form of that, and we have to teach our students, instead of drawing them back, we have to push them forward. We're going to be asking students to learn how to code and to adjust with the new technology that we're having in the future. But to grab their cell phones, I mean, that takes it away. We just had there was just an anniversary of space, and meanwhile our cell phones today have just as much capability as when they put the first man on the moon. So it's one of those situations where we should be proactive in pushing the use of technology and maybe having responsible cell phone use. And I don't want to put him on the spot, but Mr. Petrogallo, how do you feel about students having cell phones? Can you come down, Mike, please?
Rookie mistake. All right. Well, no, I agree. I hate to say middle of the road, but there's an upside. All right, and the upside is in the event of a hostile threat, something like that, communication could be critical. At the same time, I can't speak to the disruptive aspect maybe that an educator would see. Right? But from an accountability point of view, I have to go along with that. If we would take responsibility for the custodianship of these devices, the first one that goes missing, that's on us. Right? So that's something we really need to consider as well. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with Mike in the sense that something has to be done about the cell phone thing. I mean, my kid texts me way too many times during the day for. I mean, sometimes it's important, but I'm going to only say sometimes. I think part of it is our responsibility to help teach the kids how to use the cell phone responsibly, right? And unfortunately, that falls to the teachers, and the teachers have a lot because they're the ones that have all the contact hours with them during the day. But I mean, they need to set the policy for their classroom, and they need to enforce it, right? As part of classroom management. That's the way I sort of view that. And when a kid gets out of high school and they go to college, they're going to have professors that say, I don't care if you're on your phone, you're going to have the ones that are going to throw them out. They're on their phone, right? It's just a matter that students need to learn how to use their phone, right? I used to buy the argument that the kids were using their phones for instructional purposes. The more I talk to my daughters, the more I find I don't think that's true, right? The teachers are saying, yeah, you can listen to music while you do your work, right? And the next thing is that devolves into they're watching YouTube and whatever else, right? So it's a personal responsibility issue, right? And a teacher responsibility to set the environment or set the standards for their class as to when students can use it and enforce it, right? So I agree that you got to limit cell phone use. I also agree that I'm not sure we can afford to get yonder pouches for all 2,000 students or whatever they're going to be up there. So,
what's your cell phone policy in your classroom?
My kids don't use a cell phone in the classroom. Right. But I mean, even at home, like my kids, my cell phones, they're not in their rooms at night or anything, right? So we set the boundaries in our house, right? So,
I'm at work.
Yeah, I know. They don't know. Most of the kids don't use them in the class. So.
Anyone else have anything on this? I'll say at this point, I have heard the concerns that teachers have, but I'm not sure that the pouch is the right solution for us at this point. I think I would rather see what Dr. Woods does this year with enforcement, and I think that's what I've heard him ask for. And I don't want to put words in his mouth, and he's not here, so I can't ask him right now, but reflecting back on what I've heard him say, that's what I've heard from him. I also have concerns about whether, this is something we want to, if we want to have another level of discipline or increased discipline related to cell phones. I think we need to find better ways to deal with it and address the usage and curbing that in a way that is not punitive to the extent that we can. Because I don't think it's worth kids losing instructional time for having their cell phone with them. So as much as I appreciate the presentation and the technology is pretty incredible, and I appreciate the travel and the Yonder folks coming out to see us, I just don't think I'm not at a place where I would support that at this point. So, yeah.
So let me say one thing. With the change in the building configurations and removing the 7th and 8th graders from the high school, because at the high school, the students and staff were receiving mixed messages where we had the 7th and 8th graders in uniform and then the 9 through 12 not in uniform, it became very hard to enforce the uniform policy when you could have students walking down the hall next to students who didn't have to wear the uniform. Even if you had a sibling or a cousin or a friend who was in a higher grade, who happened to be in 9th grade and you're in 8th grade, you're showing up in khakis and a blue shirt. So I think the rule for cell phones K through 8, no. At the high school, I think we could slowly start to reinforce our rules better because we don't have a school within a school with different requirements. I would allow the administrative staff at the high school and teachers to work on processes that they think are non-confrontational, that will work for the best interests of the students and staff in developing ways to make sure that phones are put away, out of sight, out of mind. And when emergencies happen, and I've been in lockdown situations where the students in the classroom are the resource to let you know what's going on. And I was in a situation with my own son who texted me. I was with the sheriffs going through the building, and he said what was going on. And if he didn't have his phone, we wouldn't have known. So, and I've also been in schools where we've collected phones, broken them, lost them, had them stolen, where we had to buy the students' phones. But I think with the grade levels being distributed more efficiently for this year, that are grade level appropriate, we could act at that age group appropriateness for those students. So the high school kids, we all know, get more privileges and freedoms because they're young adults and should have more responsibilities. The middle school kids, still in that flex years, they're still in uniform, no phones, and obviously K through 5. You know, they may have it in their bag when they leave or check in when they get to school, but not out during the day, unless the teacher says, hey, we're going to do something with the phones. So I definitely think Dr. Woods and his administrative staff, Mr. Graff, he's not here, he left, talk more about that, but I think they could put together a better plan at the high school with 1,000 students, 9 through 12, on what they feel would work for them. Once again, K through 8, no phones. Once again, they're in uniform. We're reinforcing the uniform policy for this year, so we're going to crack down on it. And I definitely think the teachers and staff at the high school could develop a plan for discipline where they're not managing a school within a school like we did with the uniforms last year. So I would like to give it another year of seeing how it works with this new grade configuration where there's students who are appropriately aged in each of the buildings where we can be consistent building-wide and not have a school within a school policy.
Are you going to then have a plan for us to see in August at some point going into the school year?
Well, we'll have principal meetings, and we'll get their feedback and staff and what they feel that they could manage and how they could develop and going forward from day one. And we'll make an announcement, K through 8, no phones. You know, turn them off when you come in, when you leave, turn them back on. But there are a lot of families when the students get to school have to check in and let their parents know they got there. So I don't want a draconian rule where, nope, you're on school property, don't do it. We can't have that. We've had that this year, and it's blown up. So we will talk with the principals and administrative staff at the building to see what they feel would work. But I want something that's uniform across the district. I don't want a different rule at Turtle Creek than at Edgewood, than at Wilkins. That has to be the same. Intermediate, it's the same. You know, they're unique, and also the high school is unique. So K through 5 will have the same policy. Intermediate may be a little more lax, not sure yet. And then the high school will have their plan. But we will present something before the start of the school year, along with the academic plan.
Would there be, within buildings, teacher latitude, what they can do in each classroom?
I'm not sure yet. I need to talk to the principals for that.
Okay. Well, I'll repeat this. What I heard in the 2 meetings that I have with the folks, if it varies from classroom to classroom, that's letting the genie out of the bottle. Kids get a mixed signal, and then all of a sudden, and we're all guilty of it. We get on our computer, we get on our phone, and then you're researching or looking at something, and then you see something pop up, I'm going to go over and check out how the Pirates did last night. And that's me. We all do that, and that's the risk we run.
Right.
Can I add one tiny comment? I scrolled back through our agenda items for today. We just approved We just agreed to spend a lot of money on Chromebooks at all of our schools. So the idea that students should be relying on their phones for, whatever kind of technology, we don't actually have a reason to rely on that excuse. We're going to have 240 Chromebooks at the high school, 180 at the intermediate, and 90 at each elementary school. So that problem isn't a real problem, I say from this isolated moment in my seat. I'm sure there are plenty of teachers who are like, well, actually. So.
Any other comments on this topic? Okay. Seeing none, any other old business? Okay. Any new business? Okay. We've got a limited list of committee reports. We can review those quickly, I think. Ms. Seligson, Special Education?
Yeah, we talked about, it was a pretty good conversation, the final steps for therapeutic services in the full-time emotional support classrooms, which provider can offer the most effective mental health services to address the students' needs. And we collectively kind of came to Wesley Spectrum Services, which we voted on tonight. And in Forbes Road, it was a quick meeting, so nothing new.
Okay. Since Mr. Hanson's not here, Mr. Graves, do you want to do athletics quickly?
Yeah, it's kind of lengthy.
Yeah, you can just do the highlights.
Just the big bullets.
Just the big ones is fine.
B56 Student Leadership Summit. 20 student athletes representing all sports teams will participate in the Leadership Summit on Thursday, October 1st at the Monroeville Doubletree. The seminar will provide information, discussion, interactions, topics such as cultural diversity, power of positive communication, college prep, compliance, and amongst other things, there'll be speakers. Whitbill Steering Committee, Mr. Corsi has been selected to be the Executive Director of Whitbill to serve on the Basketball or Football Steering Committee. The committee will determine actions such as section placement, scheduling, championship locations, and other pressing matters. Summer activity, pit passing camp, 7-on-7 scrimmages, volleyball summer league at Murraysville Sports Zone, softball skill development 3 days a week at the high school field, baseball skill development 3 days a week at the high school field, also with weightlifting with football, girls basketball summer league at Plum High School, skill development 3 days a week, boys basketball summer league at Ingman's Rec Center, workouts 3 days a week, and boys soccer schedule pending.
And we also met in Facilities Committee. We had the update on construction from Reynolds. The information on that is available on the website, both on the Dixon progress report and the high school progress report and Phase 2 update on design. The design conversation will continue in August, where we expect to have some more concrete and finalized proposals. We also talked about more mundane, everyday facilities things, including grant applications for recycling bins, the bids for moving companies, which we voted on this evening, and moving items out of Rankin. The improvements to the Turtle Creek building's freezer and cooler are complete. Lead remediation is ongoing but nearly completed. We're also preparing for roof work at Edgewood, which is an ongoing issue. And we're also we're continuing to prepare for the installation of the playground at Edgewood, which has been held up a little bit because of permits, but we're looking forward to that in the next couple of weeks. New date to be determined, and we'll keep that announced and get that the call for volunteers out once again when that is ready to go. The Student Conservation Association is working at Wilkins to create a new trail and small outdoor classroom as part of a summer work and training program. That's a pretty exciting project, so we're looking forward to seeing the outcome from that. Learn and Earn from Allegheny County is also employing some of our students for the summer, with 8 students employed there, so that's good work as well. We're also getting a new chemical supplier and supplies supplier, and yeah, we'll continue to have updates on construction as I mentioned. So that was facilities. I was not in attendance at the meeting of the Sunrise School board last month, so I don't have an update from them. But anything else from committees that we need to talk about? Athletics we did. Okay, we don't need to announce that. Okay. Okay, seeing no other committee matters, we will entertain public comment. If there's anyone who wishes to address the board, please come forward. Speakers are reminded that they have 2 minutes to address the board. Please give your name and address before speaking, and we welcome and thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Marilyn Messina, 1401 Walnut Street, Edgewood. Recently, I was asked if I watch Woodland Hills School Board meetings on TV, and I responded that tragedies were not my entertainment of choice. The fact that this board took no initiative to try not to raise taxes and to try to find ways of generating monies to fund the district is surely a tragedy to be noted. This is not stated lightly. The Penn Hills School District is in dire straits. Soon that's where we will be. And after asking Senator Costa for financial assistance, the Penn Hills School Board passed a budget with no tax increase. Senator Costa, in the past 3 years, has given the Penn Hills School District $7.3 million. This year alone, $3.3 million. This is public knowledge. The Penn Hills and Woodland Hills School Districts are both in Senator Costa's district. What's the difference between the two? The Penn Hills School Board President calls Senator Costa on a regular basis. Here in Woodland Hills, only one board member, Sharday Seligson, took the initiative to call Costa's office. When she was asked to email the other members of the board and the superintendent to try to set up a communication with his office, there was no follow-up from anyone. How pathetic. Just take the easy way out and raise taxes. And I would like to thank the other 2 board members that voted no on the budget for doing that. If we had received some of the monies doled out to Penn Hills taxes, taxes would not have been raised. Penn Hills brought back 5 to 10 teachers as a result of their persistent efforts. How many furloughs are we bringing back? By the way, most of the taxpayers cannot afford that $5 cup of coffee mentioned at one budget meeting that it would cost taxpayers a month if taxes were raised. Erroneously calculated, I might add. Where's your responsibility as a school business manager? Come in, Mr. Gigliotti. Why did we pay out full salaries of furloughed employees before August? Some furloughs find jobs during the summer, and then we would not incur the unemployment expense. How about figuring some ways to generate revenues, and when presenting budgetary numbers, they should be as accurate to the penny and transparent as the tax bill we receive in the mail? As I used to tell teachers who complained about how hard teaching is, I politely told them, maybe you should seek another career. And for board members who feel it is too hard of a job or you are just too busy to serve the people of the Woodland Hills School District, maybe it's time to find another community endeavor. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else who wishes to address the board? Okay. Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
No, I'd like to make a comment.
Okay. Mr. Beaumont?
Quick comment. Marilyn, we did follow up on Sharday's, her phone call, and Mr. Harris is scheduled to have lunch with Senator Costa a week after next. We just got that phone call this morning.
And I appreciate it. But the fact in the matter is, when this has been knowledge, that the last 3 years, the 2 years prior to this year, $4 million was given out. If Senator Costa had been asked by this board to try to get monies, I don't think that he would not. He also knows that we are voters and that 2 Costas have already been put out of office. And my thing is, you've raised taxes again. And if we had even gotten half of the $3.3 million, you would not have raised taxes. And my thing, you have to take it collective blame, because you need to be persistent. And Mr. Gigliotti, being the business manager, he needs to find ways of doing it too. Those 3 articles were in the newspaper. I don't know how you explain it to people. The houses are going up for sale. I'm sitting here and I'm watching this. This is the same thing I heard for 28 years. I commend you for doing some of the things that you're doing. I agree with some of the things that you're going on with. But when you come down to it, people are not going to pay these taxes. They are going to go out. And that was the easy way out, especially when you have a legislator giving money to an adjacent school district. They didn't raise taxes, and they're $172 million in debt. We raise taxes. Whether it's 0.7 mils or whatever you do, you've got to go out and see that your administrators, you people have to call. I couldn't call Costa and say, oh, by the way, what are you doing? You are the ones that vote on the budget.
Thank you, Mrs. Messina. Okay. Appreciate it. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. See you all next month.